I like this one a lot. Kyle E. Christ asks, whenever I talk about the dangers of socialism, most often the response accusation is, I'm secretly a socialist and I just don't know it. Progressives often cite that we're all paying taxes for the payment of roads and infrastructure, so what is the difference between socialism and taxing people to pay for the creation of a road? This is a great, great, great question, because this is, in fact, how stupid these people are. They say, well, America's a socialist country already. Really? Yes. I mean, we pay for the roads, the government pays for the roads, and the government, runs the air traffic control system, and there's government programs like Social Security that people love, and that's socialism. They may be right about Social Security. Building roads is government. Being the only people that can supply your health care is a state. And that's the difference. They like to say that conservatives don't want any government. Another sentence I'm happy to be extremely proud of is, it's not that we don't want any government, we just want a government that fits in the box it came in. And it's just that simple. Paving roads is one of the few things that this federal government is authorized to do, I think. Defending us from enemies is another thing that they're authorized to do. But they're not doing either of these two things. They're letting the roads and the bridges fall into the ravines, and they're not only not enforcing the borders, they're telling those few people left who are trying to defend the borders, the federal government is saying, you will not defend this country anymore. You're just going to have to take it and just let these people in. It's the active destruction of America. It's intentional. It's not any question about it. When you tell Border Patrol agents that you can no longer arrest illegals, even though they're coming into the country with AK-47s loaded with drugs, bringing in terrorists and all the rest, they'll say, no, you can't stop them anymore. That's, what would you call that? It's infiltration. It's opening the doors of the city at midnight and letting the barbarians in. And it's always some silk-robed son of a bitch from the palace. It's never the people up on the walls. So we have in the U.S. Constitution a blueprint for what the government should do and not do. And building roads is not socialism. It's, in fact, the precise purpose of a government. Enforcing the law is the purpose of the government. That's what they're supposed to do. They're not supposed to be on the field playing and blocking guys they don't like and tackling guys they don't like, and then, running interference for guys they do like. Their job is to enforce the rules and not play the game. But that's no longer the case in terms of government. When Barack Obama can take $500 million of our money and sink it into a solar cell company called Solyndra because he personally thinks that solar energy is a great idea, that is, now we're talking about socialism. We're talking about, look, you want to, here's how you can tell whether you've got a socialist country or not. When you go to the doctor, who's paying for it? I mean, what does it say on the door? If it says Amana, then if you don't like the health care that you're getting from Amana, you can go across the street to a hospital that says Blue Cross. And if you don't like that particular health and you don't think that those doctors are any good, you can go down the block a ways and you can go into a hospital that says Kaiser Permanente or Southeastern Florida Regional Medical Center. But if, on the other hand, it says the National Health Service, now you know you're there. And every time you hear something that's called the National Health Service, the one thing you can be sure of is that it is national, but there's no health and there's no service. Somebody compared American cancer survival rates to both Canadian and British. They're both so proud of their health care system. We have free health care. No, you don't. Nobody has free health care. You have prepaid government health care. It comes out of everybody's check whether you need it or not. You have prepaid health care. And your health care is miserable compared to our health care. It's terrible. Our cancer survivor, I'm just pulling numbers out of the top of my head, but something like U.S. prostate cancer survival rate in America is like 87%, and in Great Britain it's 33%, something like that. In Canada it's 58%, something like that. It's 20 or 30 percentage points better than it is in Canada, and Canada's another 20, 30% better than it is in Britain. Socialism is the idea that the government can allocate resources better than individuals. Ultimately, going back to my previous analogy, you have a socialist government when the referee is on the field playing the ball. That's socialism. When the government is allocating resources for the entire economy instead of just the very small sliver of the economy necessary to build a road. when the government is deciding policy and they're engineering industries to succeed and tax subsidies for these people and tax penalties for these people and stuff, then you've got socialism. And the problem with socialism is it's so stupid. Socialism is a failure of intelligence. Socialism is a failure of intelligence. The idea that 10 really smart people in a room in Washington are going to know what's better to do with this $70 trillion of property in this country than 300 million people who have all different kinds of experience who are working on just their little corner of it in real time. These progressives actually believe that 10 big-brain people sitting in Washington, they're not big-brain people, because if they were big-brain people, they'd be making money like Steve Jobs and doing some good. But they actually believe that a steering committee in Washington or in Stockholm or anywhere else can determine what's best for the economy when the economy is composed of trillions of interactions on a daily basis among millions, hundreds of millions of people, each one of them acting in their own local environment, using their own local intelligence, doing everything they need to do in real time. You have 320 million processors working on the economy at any given day in America in a free economy. Any given day in America in a free economy, you got 320 million processors running at an average speed of 100, making decisions to see how best to allocate these resources. 300 million people are trying to decide what the best use of these allocated resources are. Socialism is when 10 people do it. Not 300 million, not 30 million, not 3 million, not 300,000, not 30,000, not 3,000, not 300. Maybe not even 30, maybe 3. Socialism is orders of magnitude too stupid to deal with this problem, which is why in socialist countries you have nothing but weights, nothing but lines. They'll say, well, that's not true in Denmark, but it is true in Denmark. And Sweden is true too. And you can't count Sweden and Denmark because we pay for their defense. And we also invent all the stuff that they use. They've got great healthcare in Sweden. Well, they've got great MRIs in Sweden, but they didn't invent the MRIs. We invented the MRIs, because when you are taken care of from cradle to grave, you don't invent anything. The last big Swedish invention was the dialysis machine in 1953 or something. And before that, it was a spherical bearing in the 1920s. That's all they've done. If these people are that educated, and they are, where's all the stuff? What have they produced? Nothing. They've produced nothing. And the same for Denmark, and the same for all the rest of these paradises on Earth. They don't invent anything because they are essentially old folks' homes. They're nursing homes. That's what socialism is. It's a nursing home. I don't want to have to worry about my dinner. Okay, we'll take care of that for you. And I don't have to worry about doing my wash. Don't worry, we'll take care of that for you. And I don't want to have to worry about what time I go to bed again. Don't worry, we got that taken care of. What's the point? I mean, seriously, the socialism treats people like livestock. And even in the idyllic, perfect world that these progressives like Bernie are talking about, this kind of Danish kind of, cradle to grave, free education, free this, free that, and everything you do, like free education, great, college education, fantastic, you get a free college education. It's not free. You keep 5 cents on the dollar. Denmark has the highest consumer debt in the world. And it also has the highest suicide rate in the world. Doesn't anybody find that interesting? A car that costs $20,000 in America costs $45,000 in Denmark. They don't have options there. They just don't want the responsibility. That's really what it comes down to, by the way. Now we're really on brass tacks. People want socialism because they don't want the responsibility of freedom. They can't handle it. It's not even they can't handle it. They're too lazy. They would rather have crap that was taken care of than go out and work for gold. They would rather have crap given. It's just laziness. That's all there is to it. Laziness. And in order to make these socialist paradises work, you need to have more people coming in at the bottom than are checking out at the top. And the Swedish birth rate is what, 1.3? Every 50 years there's half as many Swedes? You can't run socialism like that. It's a Ponzi scheme. Socialism is the definition of a Ponzi scheme. It's a pyramid scheme. As long as you've got enough people on the bottom, you can take stuff from them, more stuff than they would need to take from otherwise, but I'll take stuff from you, and you, to feed this guy cradle to grave. Now, what do we do about the 4 of you? Well, that means we have to have 16 people below you that we're going to take stuff from so that you guys can retire cradle to grave. What do we do about the 16 below them? And so on. And so, if you have a growing economy, a growing population of Swedes, you can keep this up for a while. But socialism, among the many other things it does to destroy the human spirit, you don't produce anything. Why would you? You don't have a dream. What do you need a dream for? Why are you going to work hard? What's the point of working hard? Working 3 jobs so that you can get a degree or something. What's the point? You're going to make the same amount of money as you did if you didn't anyway. So there are no dreams, there's no inventions, there's none of this stuff. And we want our benefits, so we have to bring in other people to work for us. And the people they're bringing in are murdering them. They're murdering them and raping them. And they don't feel any sympathy towards them. They don't feel any gratitude. They feel nothing but contempt. And you know what? On some level, I think they're right. I think if I was one of these Muslims in Stockholm, I would feel nothing but contempt for these people who try to buy us off, and who, every time we smack them and every time we murder them or rape them, they just simply try to be nicer to us. What would you do with that? It's an old folks home. It's a nursing home, and it doesn't. It's livestock. You know, that is what a slave is, right? Is a person who's fed and cared for and housed by somebody else. I don't understand it. I do understand it, actually. I mean, I can't connect to it emotionally, but I do understand it. People are lazy, and Americans used to be motivated by what they wanted when it was okay to have stuff, back before having stuff became the greatest form of evil, and killing the planet too on top of it. They used to be, yeah, I want a nice house. What are you going to do about it? Well, I guess I'm going to have to work my ass off. For how long? 50 years maybe? Sounds about right. Get going. And now you can have all this groovy stuff, but it's actually yours. And while I'm at it, maybe I'll invent the iPhone or something. But no, they don't. But these kids are too lazy. It's not just the kids. It's the people who can't compete. And just keep that in mind. The people that love socialism are people either too stupid or too lazy or both to go out and make their own way in the world. Or too frightened. They're just too frightened of freedom. They don't like the idea that, you know, how am I going to find my next paycheck? Well, that's reality, kids. Better save some money. And you better be thinking about it. It makes me nervous. Okay. Back into the cage you go. We're not time here. We're getting pretty close.